In New York, crime is, of course, a major factor as well, and it's a big issue in the now very tight race for the governor office in New York. Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin is running against Governor Kathy Hochul in that contest, and he joins me now. Congressman, good to have you with us today. Glad to have you on. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with your tightening race, but clearly today there's a lot to talk about with what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband. And you're on the list of the people that came to my mind of those who have confronted violent attacks themselves in recent days and weeks. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. July 21st, over this past summer, I was giving a speech for the campaign. It was the first of 14 campaign rallies over the course of about a 72-hour period. And someone came on stage and he had in his hand what appeared like brass knuckles. It was a couple of sharp daggers. And fortunately, we were able to react, grabbed his wrist. A bunch of people detained him, and then law enforcement arrived quickly to resolve it. Around the same time, whether it's the targeting of pro-life pregnancy centers, it's the targeting of Supreme Court justices, regardless of what branch of government you are, what your party is, what your ideology is, there's just no room for any of this type of violence or even threats of violence as part of the process. We're just 11 days out from an election right now, and it gets hot. And it's just really important that people are able to participate, that they're able to cast their vote without intimidation, that they're able to go to rallies and feel safe, that candidates are able to go into places that might be more dangerous. And I'll tell you, as a candidate for governor right now, I often find myself in some of the most dangerous areas of New York State. And I'm finding that there are people there, and oftentimes kids, walking streets where the people who live there feel like the street has been surrendered to criminals. So the number one issue for us in this campaign that I've heard from New Yorkers is that they want safe streets. They want to stop passing pro-criminal laws. They want district attorneys actually doing their jobs instead of releasing violent criminals to run free. And they want to support our men and women in law enforcement. So it's a convergence here of what has been political violence we've witnessed. The rise of just crime on our streets and our subways is an important issue, and also a vision for the future, because this really could get worse if we don't have the right people in office to fight this.
You know, I'm really struck by the images in my head of the woman in New York who was on her way to work at the airport, and she was thrown to the floor and kicked in the head and almost lost her eyesight, right? And the image of the man who was the subject of a running start across a subway platform was slammed down into the subway tracks. Thank God a train didn't come. And there's a lot of, and in many of these situations, Congressman, it comes down to, oh, well, this person is mentally unstable. We now understand what has been in his background. His family was concerned about him. We don't know yet, but my educated guess is, based on what we've seen so far, we're going to learn something similar about this individual at the Pelosi household. So my question to you is, I think a quarter of the incidents that we've seen in New York State are connected to mental health issues. What, if you're elected, what would you do to make sure that these people who are not safe on the streets get off the street?
They just need to be involuntarily removed. We have emotionally disturbed people. They are confrontational. They act erratic. There are people who are changing their behavior as law-abiding New Yorkers as to what hours they're walking the street, whether or not they'll even walk or call an Uber. They might not even ride the subway anymore. If they do ride a subway, I hear stories of hugging a pole or grabbing a guardrail. Yeah. You need to have an involuntary removal of some of these emotionally disturbed people and take them off the streets.
And where would you take them to? Where would you take them to, Congressman? Because we used to have a lot of institutions. They were taken down, some of them for very good reason, because they were horrific places. But is that something that you would want to do, to build new institutions that are safe, that get these people off the street and into a safe place for them as well?
I would utilize the infrastructure where the state has just closed down prisons. There were 6 that were closed earlier this year. And these are sites that have newer infrastructure. They weren't closed down because they were falling into disrepair. We have the infrastructure. We have the expertise. I believe that even financially, economically, it's the best move in the long run. We also have to understand we can't paint this all with the same broad brush. There are different challenges from one person to the next. But the idea that we're just going to allow these people to roam free on the streets is just a non-starter for me. It's going to require more than just 50 beds. We're talking about thousands. And we have the place to put them. You can just look at the 6 sites that were just closed earlier this year by the state of New York.
Yeah, what needs to change to involuntarily, take someone off the street? Because I've, been confronted with a couple of these situations, and you learn the background in the cases, and it happens again and again. And they say, well, he didn't do, anything that was bad enough to put him in prison. So he is taken off the street, arrested maybe, back on the street the next day.
Well, it's an immediate change of policy and law. It's working with law enforcement. We know who many of the emotionally disturbed people are. As the city goes, you need the mayor of the city of New York to be going very strong and aggressive in this plan, the support from the state. And I believe the state has the infrastructure of where the mayor of the city of New York would be able to send these individuals. The law enforcement ranks of the NYPD, the greatest police organization in the history of the world, has been depleted with retirements. Even people who are just a few years on the job just deciding it's not worth it because elected officials don't have their back. We need to hire more law enforcement. They need the elected officials to have their back, and the state needs to come in and provide the infrastructure. And whatever changes of law need to get done, let's just do it immediately, because there are people who are getting hurt in the process. You pointed out 2 examples. You could have pointed out dozens of examples, and the craziest part of it was you could be pointing out dozens of examples from just the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're not talking about the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Congressman Lee Zeldin, thank you. Your race is one that is very interesting to watch. It is very tight right now between you and Governor Hochul, and we'll be watching it closely. We do appreciate you making time for us today. We know you're really busy. We hope that you'll come back and talk to us again in the course of the next several days before this election. Thank you, sir.
Definitely. Look forward to it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.